It's Wednesday, May 1st, 2024, May Day. Did you know at the end of this month we're going to be having regional games at Baum-Walker Stadium? May 31st is the first day of regionals. Hard to believe how fast the season goes by, but it does. A lot to figure out before then, though. Arkansas in the thick of a conference race. They go to Kentucky this weekend. Both teams tied for the SEC lead. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about the series win over Florida. We'll talk about last night's game against Missouri State. But first, a word from our sponsor.
Kendall King, where it's all about teamwork. Building brands around a design concept, Kendall King takes pride in their skill sets in displays and signing, as well as .com photography, content creation, and influencer marketing. The bases are loaded, and the Kendall King team is bringing it home. This is the Whole Hog Baseball Podcast, presented by Kendall King, the first podcast devoted entirely to Arkansas baseball, featuring insight from Arkansas baseball color analyst Bubba Carpenter. Here's your host, Matt Jones.
Hey, good morning. Welcome into our studio here in downtown Fayetteville, the Whole Hog Baseball Podcast. I'm Matt Jones with Bubba Carpenter. A lot to get to this week. Arkansas with a real exciting, I guess you could say, win over Florida last week, a couple of one-run wins. Even Game 3 was competitive outside of maybe one inning, and we'll talk about that today. They beat Missouri State last night 12-7, and Bubba, just it dawned on me, or kind of my main thoughts last night were, number one, they got a great start from Gage Wood, 3 innings. I think he faced the minimum. And then, the offense really came alive for 4 innings, and that was good to see for the Razorbacks to get that kind of start offensively, because a lot of times it's been kind of like, they respond when the other team challenges them. Last night they were the aggressors and got off to a good start.
It was good to see 3 consecutive hits to lead off the game and then a grand slam.
And 10 pitches.
Yeah.
Aloy's grand slam was on the 10th pitch. Somebody made a point. It was like, has there ever been a 4-run lead quicker into a game? 10 pitches and a 4-run lead.
No, I don't remember it. Stovall led off with a really good at bat. Like lefty Beaver, he was good against lefties. Like, he holds lefties under 200 batting average. I want to say it was like 180. I don't know. It's something below 200. Righty's hitting 4-something against him, but really good at bat by Stovall. He was only lefty in the lineup, got a base hit to left, and then from there it was just kind of base hit, bomb. And boy, to start off a game like that, it's I'd said the keys to the game was to try to get our offense going and rolling into Kentucky. It was good to have a couple of games, and boy, we got off to a great start, and hopefully that's going to continue.
Wasn't that a great crowd last night? I mean, I was sitting there thinking, it's 8 o'clock on a Tuesday, and you look out, and I mean, the seats, they weren't packed. It wasn't like a weekend series, but it was a really big crowd for a non-conference game on a Tuesday night.
Yeah, that's what we were talking about last night. I mean, it's the biggest Tuesday night crowd of the year, I think.
I think so. I think you're right.
Weather was perfect, though. It was a perfect night to be at the ballpark, so I don't know. Did you bring a dog last night?
I did not. No, I know people who did. There were 9,890 humans in the ballpark. This is how it was announced. 9,890 was the human attendance at the ballpark, and there were 68 dogs. It was Bark in the Park night. In addition to, it was their childhood cancer awareness night. They wore their. Did those look like gold hats or yellow hats to you? Because there was some debate in the press box.
Okay, so Phil asked me, and I said it looked yellow, but then I found out later that's gold.
Yeah. Yeah, so, I mean, that's kind of what I thought. They look yellow, but they're supposed to be gold is the color for childhood cancer awareness. And that's a really cool deal that they do every year at Baum. They have the childhood cancer awareness night there. They wear their yellow hats. And, hey, I mean, we can I'll be looking at my computer during the game, and we can see what people are reading on our website. And early on in that game, this story that I had written before about, why does Arkansas wear the gold hats, It was really high up on our website. A lot of people were reading that, and so it achieves its goal. I mean, it at least gets people talking about what the objective is there.
No, I think it's awesome. Plus, we're undefeated.
Yeah, they beat
gold hats.
Yeah, they were supposed to debut them in 2020, and then the season got shut down. So they stayed on the shelf for a year, and then they wore them against Arkansas State in 21, against Arkansas State again in 22. They were supposed to wear them against Arkansas State last year, and that game got canceled because of rain. And then they brought them out from Missouri State last night. I don't know why they didn't wear them for Arkansas State this year. They had them here at Baum, but
no, I think it's neat. And we have Jaron Sorters was a kid that played for me coming up, and he had cancer and ended up dying of cancer, and so we still do a fundraiser tournament every year. that we participate in, and it's a really neat deal. And so it's a great cause, and I think it's awesome that they do that every year.
Yeah, really great cause that they had last night. The Razorbacks and the Bears will play again today at 4 o'clock. Pitching is going to be a little bit short for both of these teams. Arkansas had to go to the bullpen maybe a little bit more than they thought they would have to last night. They're going to start Ben Bybee today. Missouri State's going to throw Hunter Day, a right-hander, against him. But the expectation is that this is going to be a bullpen day again for both teams. They're going to really it's going to be I would suspect you see Bybee throw a few innings, but then after that it's probably going to be an inning here, maybe a batter there, depending on who it is pitching.
Well, if you look at the guys that didn't throw last night, you got hopefully Bybee go a few innings. They don't want to go too much because they're going to need him on the weekend. Mm-hmm. You got Dylan Carter, Cody Frank, and then from there you may start recycling guys. Yep. Might see Cooper Dossett back out there. I know Cooper would love to get back out there on the mound. Mm-hmm. Walked a couple last night. Didn't have his best stuff. It was kind of strange to see that. We haven't done that in a midweek game. Walked guys like that. Mm-hmm. Stone Hewitt walked 2. I think Cooper walked 2. Parker Coyle walked a couple.
And they all hit a batter. All 3 of those.
Yeah.
They all hit,
So it was like 6 walks, 3 hit batters, something like that. And that's something that we haven't done on a midweek game. Our midweek starters or pitching has been just phenomenal.
Well, and like I've looked at, I didn't calculate what this number is, but it's lower than what it usually is. On Tuesday nights, their strike percentage has been really high, 72%. I think it was like 76% against Pine Bluff down in North Little Rock last week. Last night they threw 106 of 174 pitches for strikes. Not a bad number, but it's not nearly as efficient as they have been on those Tuesdays. And I don't know, it was kind of striking to me. It's like this looks different. This feels different than what we've seen on Tuesdays.
Yeah, I think it was the 3rd most runs we've given up all year. I think the only other midweek game was Texas Tech. We gave up 8, I think, against Texas Tech. But you're going to have off nights like that. But it was just kind of odd that 3 guys that have been really good. Dossett's been around the strike zone. Parker Coyle, Stone Hewitt. They haven't walked anybody, and for them to be a little bit out of the zone like that was a little bit odd. So,
do you think arms are getting a little bit tired this time of year?
I don't think so, because if you look at Dave's circle of trust this year, it's big. I mean, there's a lot of guys he believes in that he can go out there and get outs with, where in the past it's gotten kind of small. So I think guys have gotten tired, but I don't think they're tired right now. I don't think they've thrown enough innings. I think if you ask those guys, they'd probably want to throw more.
Injuries are one thing that are certainly on everyone's mind. Dave addressed those after the game last night. Hunter Dietz probably out for the season. We don't know what's going on with him. We just know that he came back in late April or in late March, pitched against LSU, then he pitched against San Jose State, came out mid at bat, and he hadn't been back in. Probably not going to pitch again this season. They're going to shut him down and get him ready for next year. Colin Fisher is something. I mean, that's something that's kind of emerged here in the last week or so. He's not throwing today. He's not throwing, and Dave Van Horn, I asked him about him last night, and he basically just said, all I can tell you is that he won't pitch tomorrow. But it sounds like there may be something going on with him where he's not going to be available for a little while.
The Hunter Dietz deal, I mean, I think it's good to just shut him down, get him healthy, and he's going to be a big part of the staff next year. Colin Fisher, unfortunately, injuries are part of the game. We'll wait and see, what it is that's going on with him. But that's where you're at in college baseball. I feel like we've been fortunate this year. We haven't had a lot of injuries, whether it be position player wise or pitcher. So we've been fortunate. Keep your fingers crossed that keeps up.
I mean, we've talked so much about the depth of the pitching staff. This is where it comes into play.
Yeah.
You would think that most years it would come into play sooner. You'd have more injuries. And Dietz was hurt early in the year. He couldn't come back until several weeks into the season. But outside of that, they haven't dealt with just a whole lot injury-wise. Mason Molina was out this last weekend. The expectations that he'll probably be back for the Kentucky series, I would assume in a starting rotation. We haven't gotten the rotation yet for the weekend. But for the most part, it's been a really clean, I guess knock on wood, season for them from an injury standpoint, pitching wise.
Oh, it has. I mean, you look at some of the stuff that happened last year. You're like, wow. It just, it seemed like there's some unfortunate things, like the Cody Frank thing, tearing a muscle down here, and that doesn't happen very often. But yeah, I think we've been real lucky this year. I think Hunter Bell does a great job of getting the guys in shape. I think with all the technology we have down there in the Hunt Center, I think they're able to pinpoint stuff before it leads to an injury, and I think that's huge.
Let's talk about the Florida series. Arkansas beats the Gators 2-1 and 6-5 before losing 9-5 in the finale. That loss on Saturday snapped their 27-game home winning streak. They were able to tie the program's longest winning streak with the 84 and 85 teams. If you look at single season, like in-season home winning streaks, nobody's ever come close at Arkansas to this 27-game run that the Razorbacks just went on. I think the previous record was like 16. I don't know that we're ever going to see that again. That's a really – I mean, you play, 35, 36 home games before the postseason. You almost have to run the table to get to that point for one team.
I think that's unheard of, 27 in a row. And Dave said after the game he didn't – how many was that? He wasn't sure. But, and I don't think that Dave really looks at that a whole lot. I think
– You think he knew?
Oh, I don't know. You never know.
I think he knew. I think he knew the number. I don't think there's much that goes on in that program that he doesn't know
I think you're probably right. But, I think it's more important for the fans and people like us. Like, I think it's really awesome that you defend your home park. I mean, you've got to win at home. And we talk about the Baum Walker magic all the time. There's just something special about Baum Walker where you really never feel like you're out of a game. Even that last game against Florida. I think if we get Peyton Stovall up to bat as the tying run in that last game, something special happens right there. Maybe we win, maybe we don't, but we almost had a chance.
So game one, Hagen Smith has a great outing again. I think, I don't have his numbers. Well, here, I'm going to pull up the numbers. I think he had 11 strikeouts. Am I right about that?
Yes.
Yeah, 11 strikeouts, 7 innings. That tied his career high. He hadn't gone that long in a game since his freshman season. Went 7 innings twice during his freshman year, 96 pitches. I think he threw 68 for strikes. So it was a great outing for him. The only blemish against him was an unearned run after Jared Spraglott had made a phenomenal defensive play. We're going to talk about the defensive plays that Arkansas has been making here in a little bit, but Spraglott makes maybe the best defensive play I've seen all year, and that includes what happened the next day. Saves a run, and then there's an error that allows Florida to score from third, ties the game. Ty Wilmsmeyer walks to lead off the eighth, goes to third on a really good single by Peyton Stovall, and they get the winning run when Jared Spraglott gets the sac fly. Just kind of what we've come to expect on Friday nights from Arkansas, a real low-scoring game with Hagen Smith doing his thing.
Well, you think about some of those plays, and if you're going to win a 2-1 game, it's kind of like the no-hitter. If your pitcher's going to throw a no-hitter, a couple of guys have to really step up and make. There's always one or two just fantastic plays.
Yep.
And that's how it is in a 2-1 game in the SEC. You know there's going to be a couple of really good defensive plays. And you're right, Jared Spraglott's play at third, that bare hand play, that ball is spinning like crazy. He comes in, fields it on the run, makes a perfect throw, catches it, and throws it all in one motion. That's phenomenal play right there. It was awesome. But then, you can talk about the negatives. You can say, well, the rundown kind of, You've got Jalen Guy, I think is his name, up at the plate hitting like 150, and you got 2 strikes on him. Florida's going to try to do something first and third right there. We executed the play perfect. We just didn't catch the throw at third. And I asked Jared after the game, did the ball cut on you, or did it move, or he just said, no, I just took my eye off of it too soon, to look at the runner. So, but he made up for it. That's the beautiful thing about baseball, Matt. You get a chance to redeem yourself, and he got a chance in the 8th inning to come up and got the sac fly to win the game.
You remember against Texas Tech 2 weeks ago when Ben McLaughlin was, Spraglott was charged in error. And it looked like McLaughlin made the misplay. Did you notice it was the inverse?
It was flip-flop.
It's kind of like karma.
Yeah.
It was like McLaughlin was charged the error when it was probably Spraglott's fault that the ball didn't get caught. It just I thought that was kind of interesting how that worked out.
Yeah, I didn't think about that, but that's a great point. But yeah, it was, McLaughlin for some reason got the error, but it was actually a pretty good throw. He just kind of took his eye off of it, but he made up for it.
How tough of a play is that when you got to keep your eye on that guy at third and make sure that he doesn't cross the plate, but then you also don't want, the fish between first and second to wiggle off the line.
So going all the way back to Norm DeBryan, we worked on that it was just tiring, just nonstop first and third plays. I mean, and you can work on it all day, and then you get in a game, and it always seems different. Like we really would, Matt. We would work on that play. We might work on it for over an hour, nonstop, first and thirds. And if we didn't execute it, Norm DeBryan got so mad. But you get a game like that, and it's different because every runner's reaction is different. I don't care how much you work on it. They did everything right. They executed flawlessly, except they just didn't catch the ball at third. Mm-hmm. And I think the thing that's frustrating, it's different if you've got like a Caglione at the plate, but you've got a guy at the plate hitting 150 and, with 2 strikes, and Hagen struck him out on the next pitch. Mm-hmm. So that's a part of it that's a little bit, it's a little bit frustrating if you're the defense, but, it worked out. We got the win, but it is a tough play. It really is. There's so many moving parts. So many people have to do their job, and you've got to watch that runner at third while you're in the middle of a rundown. So it's not an easy play.
Yeah, I mean, you wonder if Hagen just comes to the plate there on that 2-strike count if the inning ends with no runs.
Yeah, just say go ahead and take.
Easy to say, coulda, woulda, shoulda. But that was certainly something that you thought about. The next day, what's the word we've been talking about all year with Arkansas?
Respondability.
Respondability. They had it.
He texted me.
I did. This word has taken off.
Yeah.
I didn't mean for it to, but I noticed, the Razorback baseball account, they're starting to use it.
Yeah.
Somebody tweeted at me the other day and said they're talking about it in the hog pen. They've got it, man. I mean, there's something to be said about just being able to respond. Doesn't matter how bad your offense has been, you're just able to respond when the other team takes the lead. Florida scores 3 runs in the top of the 7th, and here comes Arkansas. They score 5 2-out runs in the bottom of the 7th and totally changed that game.
Yeah. And it started with just a harmless little 2-out single up the middle.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't hit that hard. Next thing you know, another base hit, home run, and boom, there you got 5 runs. But it was awesome. But you're right, the respondability, I think I like it.
Should print T-shirts. If I got you a respondability shirt, would you wear it in the booth?
Sure. Make it look cool.
I'd do my best. Christina Long, who works with us, she did a story about a week ago kind of looking inside those numbers about how the team responds. And what she found when updated from the game the other day, that in 21 games where Arkansas has fallen behind this year, they have come back to win or I guess now it's 22 games, but they have come back to win 15 times. And in those 15 games, they scored the tying or go-ahead run within a half inning or 1.5 innings of falling behind. That's respondability in a nutshell. It's when the other teams – it's not just about coming back and winning. It's about answering really quickly and not allowing that other team to have any momentum or confidence that they're going to win the game.
No, that's important, and it's kind of a dagger to the other team every time they score when you respond back and score. I mean, it really is. It's kind of defeating to that other dugout over there. So it's a real thing. Some teams have a knack of doing it, and some don't. And you can talk about the offensive numbers of this team all day, or you can look and say, look, it's not what you hit, it's when you hit, and they find ways to hit when they need to.
Let's talk about the Peyton Holt play. We're going to talk more about it here in a little bit too, but in the context of the best defensive plays of the year. But that play in general, how tough is it to make? How risky is it? Because as I'm watching him do this, not necessarily in real time. You see it in real time. It's like, what was that? Yeah. My first thought was, did he just misread the ball? But then you kind of figure out really quickly after it was intentional. But I have to believe that if you're playing outfield, getting your body and your brain on the same track, trying to do that, it could be very easily to get out of sorts there. So you played outfield. How tough of a play is that? Did you ever try it?
I never tried that one. Okay. Now I did the I don't see the ball thing. In the outfield, like right at dusk, when the ball's hard to see, I'm like, I don't see it. And the runner starts to creep off the bag a little bit because he thinks I don't see the ball, it's going to drop. Then you catch it and throw behind. But the glove pump like that never even crossed my mind. And honestly, I had some of the best outfield instructors in the world coming up in the Yankee organization. We worked on all kinds of drills. We never worked on that play. But, it's just that's typical Peyton Holt. Travis Lallemand, the Crowder head coach, was in the stands last night. And so I was texting him a little bit. And, we were on a thread with a buddy of mine and that I coach with. And we were talking about, that's just elite JUCO coaching right there after he made the play. And but he said that's just typical Peyton Holt. He said that he does stuff like that all the time. It's just incredible. That just the stuff that goes through his head. And it's a great play. And when it happened, I was like you. I thought he misjudged the ball. I really did, because I'm watching. I'm like, what? Did he misjudge it? And then it comes down, and then I realized what had happened. But it was just crazy. But he faked everybody out. The best part about it was O'Sullivan. His face in the dugout was priceless, and so I don't know if he really. It took him a minute to take it all in.
I watched the all 9 camera. I watched like the Zapruder film. I mean, I was sitting there watching every person on the field and what their reaction was, and it was really interesting, to watch the reactions of everybody on the field because bases were loaded. Is that right? Yeah, bases were loaded at that point. So you got a lot of people on the field at that point. You got the guy who's come over from the on deck circle to try to give him directions at home plate. I mean, there's a lot of going on in the field, and it was just really fun to watch all these different reactions on the field. It was just the play I thought about. It took me until the next morning, but I thought about this. They're playing LSU at the SEC tournament last year, and Peyton Holt was playing second. And remember, he did that little turnaround and back pick the guy at third base.
Yeah.
It's amazing what he does with these plays.
Now that play,
it's got to be practiced, right?
Yeah, you practice that one. That's one that you practice even in and out before the game. You go like 5-4-3 double play, but instead of throwing to first, you spin, you fake the throw and spin and throw to third. That's something I even have my younger guys work on that. But it's a play that you've got to be able to sell it. And Peyton Holt has the ability to sell it. Like some guys can do it. So this is like an inside move on the mound. Some pitchers cannot do an inside move and fool a runner. Some guys are really good at it. But Peyton's just got a knack for that type of play. He's just that type of player.
I think he is the most exciting player in college baseball.
Yeah.
I mean, he's
so.
not a big time draft prospect. He's not going to throw 100 off the mound. He's not going to, he's not going to do any of these things that are going to wow you from a prospect standpoint. But he's just a lot of fun to watch.
Yeah.
I mean, that, hey, if he's going first to third or home to second, the helmet's going to fly off because he's running so fast. He's going to give you everything he's got on every single play, and then you add in some of that flair, like with the outfield or what we were talking about, second base. It's just a lot of fun to watch, and he's a really good baseball player.
Yeah.
I mean, he is somebody. I always say this, that good college teams have good college baseball players, guys who may not go on to be anything professionally, but they are really, really good college players who you want on your team. Dave's had a lot. You look back at every College World Series team, a Carson Shaddy, a Tim Carver, a Bo Bigham, those types.
Yeah.
They were so integral to those teams that went to the World Series. They didn't have pro careers, but and I kind of see Peyton Holt in that mold. Maybe he goes on and does great things professionally. I don't know. I don't really see him as a pro prospect, but boy, he's fun to watch. And I'll tell you another play that I thought kind of maybe got overlooked a little bit last weekend was early on. I think it was the second inning of Game 1. He gets a 10-pitch at bat against Pierce Coppola, the Florida left-hander, who's been carving Arkansas up to that point. And Ryder Helfrich gets to stand over in the on-deck circle and see 10 pitches coming in against a right-handed hitter. What's he do? 2 pitches, 3 pitches later, he hits a home run, and that's a huge swing in that game. And I think that if you ask Helfrich, he would probably tell you that Peyton's at bat probably helped him hit that.
I think so, because if you're on deck, you've got 10 pitches to time him up. I was actually talking to my son about that. I was like, when you're on deck like that, watch and time every pitch. So he got a chance to see 10 pitches. So I really do. I think that made a difference in his at bat. He got a 2-0 fastball and hit it over the fence. Another play that I think gets overlooked is in the 8th inning where Peyton cut the ball off in the gap. Caglianone's ball in the gap. Danae Steelan, he cuts that ball off in the gap. The outfield's wet. If that ball gets by him, if he takes the wrong angle into left center, ball gets by him, Danae scores. So I mean, there's so many. Peyton does so many little things that gets overlooked that are like really good baseball plays, and it goes back to what you said. You've got all these analytics and you've got your 5 tools and you got all that, but there's a tool that gets overlooked, and it's what's inside a guy. You know, does he love the game of baseball? Is he that kind of, I call him dirtbag player that's always the dirtiest guy on the field. You get 9 of those guys on the field, and you're gonna win a lot of games.
Dirtbag, that's a term of endearment in baseball.
Yes, it is. I think only in baseball.
Yeah, probably so. I've been probably shouldn't be, because they say that Peyton Holt can play every position on the field, and Lord knows we've seen him do just about all of them since he's been at Arkansas. But I've been very impressed and probably a little surprised with how well he's taken to center field.
Well, so Phil and I talk about this. A lot of infielders, you put them in the outfield, they look like an infielder playing outfield. He doesn't look like that. He looks like an outfielder playing outfielder. I mean, his routes to the ball, everything he does is just it's right. Like his angles to the ball, whether it's a ground ball or a fly ball. Made a couple of plays over the weekend going back against the fence where, I mean, he didn't like tiptoe back. He went there, beat the ball to the spot, caught it on the warning track like it was nothing. And that's just natural instinct. Some guys have it, some don't.
I mean, he's playing really good center field right now. Center field has been it's been a predicament for Arkansas because Wilmsmeyer is so good defensively, but his bat just hasn't gotten going this year. And Holt changes that a little bit with the way that he's been playing. Game 3, Arkansas loses, and the big sequence in that game, everybody's going to talk about Jack Caglianone's grand slam, and it was huge. But to me, it was the at-bat before that against Ty Evans. Cody Frank has him down 1-2, and he throws him 3 straight balls with the bases loaded, and all of a sudden a 2-1 game becomes 3-1, and then you have to pitch to Jack Caglianone.
Right.
And, I mean, he did what kind of we expected that he would do at least once in the weekend, and hits a grand slam, and it totally changes the course of that game.
I think I jinxed him on the air because I said the last thing you want to do right here is walk this guy, pitch to Caglianone with the bases loaded.
Now, Van Horn said that he thought about intentionally walking him, giving him the Barry Bonds treatment.
Yeah, and hindsight's 20/20. If you walk him, it's great, but that's such a tough call to make.
Well, I mean, and you got Colby Shelton batting behind him, who's a really good left-handed hitter.
Well, and but Ty Evans, he foul. He had a pop-up foul that we just barely blew out of play. I mean, it was close. I mean, there's a lot going on. That whole game, you could pick apart that whole game and just the whole weekend, really. There's so many clutch plays. I think of Game 2, Kendall Diggs cutting the ball off in right, or didn't cut it off, but off the wall, held the guy to a single. Yost, I think, was the hitter.
Yep.
Then he gets thrown out going to second.
Yep.
If he doesn't cut that ball off, he's at second base with 2 outs. I mean, there's and who knows what happens, a 2-out RBI. I mean, there's so many things. I mean, I always write stuff down in little notes and stuff. Ben McLaughlin made a great play. Runners at first and third, diving to his right, came up through the runner out at home. We could go on and on about it, and we don't have enough time in this one podcast. But the thing of it is you can, a lot of people focus on, well, they didn't do the rundown right or whatever, the error. But look at all the phenomenal plays that we made on the course of the weekend, and that's just. Those are tough plays. That McLaughlin play where he caught the ball, he could have turned 2, but you want to get the guy out at the plate. There was nobody out at the time, first and third, nobody out. So getting that guy out at home was huge.
O'Sullivan was real complimentary of Arkansas's defenses. Every coach who has come through here has been. Right. Keith Gutton was complimentary of their defense last night. Another big play in that Game 3, 3-2. Arkansas was making a rally in the bottom of the 4th after the grand slam, and who was it? Aloy gets called up. Rung up on a ball that was down at his ankles. And is this not the perfect definition of ump show? The umpire calls a strike down at his calves, and then the dugout's the one who gets upset when they call him out on it. And I think Dave Van Horn ended up getting a warning.
That was a horrible call, by the way.
Because if he doesn't make that call, if he makes the correct call. And again, we're looking at TrackMan. I can see it, and Bubba's got access to it in his in booth. And so, it's probably that far underneath the strike zone on TrackMan. So I don't know what that correlates to on the field, but it was well below the zone. And if Aloy gets on, then all of a sudden you've got Arkansas coming up with the bases loaded and the tying run at the plate, and who knows what happens.
Yeah, I mean, with Peyton Holt coming up and the bases loaded, you always feel good
Yeah.
about that. And now I'm going to point out a negative. And this is what I tell my young hitters. Aloy swinging a 3-1 fastball down almost in the dirt.
Yeah.
I mean, way out of the zone. And I tell my hitters, look, when you do that, you lose credibility with the umpire. You can't swing at the 3-1 pitch, a foot off the plate, and then expect to get the borderline 3-2 pitch. But, it is what it is. It was a ball. It was a terrible call. So each one of those squares that you're looking at is about 5.5 inches. It was about 5 inches low.
Wow.
I mean, that's really low, and I mean, it wasn't close.
No.
It really wasn't even close. It changed up down, and like I said, that could have. Who knows what could have happened right there?
Yeah, you just hate to see the game,
Yeah.
and not that it would have affected the outcome of the game. Might have affected the final score, but you just hate to see that left into an umpire's hands like that. But it is what it is. We got a lot more to go on the Whole Hog Baseball podcast, but first a word from our sponsor, Kindle King.
At Kindle King, we're proud of over 4 decades of design. We're continuing the legacy of great creative design by combining our brands of Kindle King, Soapbox, and Shopcart. Together, these brands represent a new focus in marketing design, with individual attention to specific areas. Through our design expertise supported by a team of talented professionals, we showcase our best. We are Kindle King, we are Soapbox, we are Shopcart, we are design.
Welcome back into the Whole Hog Baseball podcast. We're going to talk about our favorite defensive plays of the SEC season here in just a minute. But first, I wanted to get your impression of Jack Caglione because, this guy, a lot of times you get a power hitter, but they're going to have a lot of holes in their swing and they're going to strike out a lot. He is maybe the toughest to strike out power hitter I have ever seen come through Baum-Walker Stadium. And every time he takes a swing, it's electric. He had a 115-mile-an-hour ground out in game one. That was just wow.
Well, the 115 ground out, that's the hardest ball hit this year at Baum-Walker.
Is it really?
Aloy hit a home run 114.
Okay.
And I think Aloy's hit another ball 113, but the 115 is the hardest ball hit so far this year. And that was against Hagen Smith, but he's the best. I think we talked about last week when we were talking about the preview of this series. I don't see a hole in his swing. There's no hole in there whatsoever. He's probably one of the best, if not the best, college hitter I've seen come through here. There's really no way to get him out consistently. There's just not a hole. I think you can break down everyone's hitter, and everybody has a hole in their swing. And I don't know. I talked to Matt Hobbs about it yesterday, and there's really not a hole in there. But the ball that he hit out off of Cody Frank was 84 miles an hour, outside corner, down.
Great pitch.
Most guys roll over that into a double play. If I try to pull that ball, I ground out second.
I saw a still frame of whenever he started making contact with the ball, and it's like, can you believe this is going to be a home run that's 406 feet to center? Yeah. No way to know that.
Yeah, 106 miles an hour off the bat. He basically just one-hand flicked it, but he's a big, strong guy. Now, he's not Shohei Ohtani. He's not. I don't see him as a two-way guy.
No, the pitching's not. He's got good velocity, but I didn't see him being just this blow-you-away pitcher.
No, he shows his changeup really bad. He's okay. For a college guy, but if I'm a GM, I'd draft him and I put him in the middle of my lineup and say, hey, go drive in some runs for me.
There's a lot of conversation right now about who's the best hitter in college baseball because there's a few really elite hitters right now. You got him. You got Charlie Condon, who hit his 30th home run last night for Georgia. Travis Bazana at Oregon State, who we saw earlier this year. And I want to make this point, too. I looked up what Hagen Smith has done against these elite hitters that he's faced this year, and he's no surprise, but he's held his own. Bazana went 0 for 3 against him with the 3 strikeouts down in Arlington. Caglione went 0 for 3 against him. I think they were all ground outs, or maybe 2 ground outs and a fly out against him the other night. Tommy White went 1 for 3. He did homer against him. Ethan Petrie had probably the most success that anyone's had against Hagen, just in terms of, I think he was hit by a pitch and he had a hit against him. But he's holding his own against these hitters who are either going to be drafted in the first round this year or drafted in the first round next year. And he's got a couple of more to face at Texas A&M here in a couple of weeks. Braden
Right.
Montgomery and Jace Lavalette. Montgomery's going to be a first-rounder this year. Lavalette, there's some thought he might be 1-1 next year. D1 Baseball's got him listed as its top college draft prospect for 25. So just kind of interesting to see what Hagen Smith is doing against these elite hitters.
Well, and he's elite.
Yeah.
He's got elite stuff. Now, you can look at it and say, well, Jack Caglione, first at bat, he took a 100-mile-an-hour fastball from Hagen and down and in, pulled his hands inside, and hit a 99-mile-an-hour line drive to center field. And you think of it, if you hold him to 99 miles an hour, 95 is kind of the threshold for a hard hit ball. But for Caglione, I think we raised the threshold a little bit. So you held him to 99, he flied out to center. But the thing is it was a 100-mile-an-hour pitch. By the way, Hagen's first 3 pitches of that game were 100 miles an hour.
Yep.
Crazy.
Yep.
The next at bat, he hits a 2-2 fastball, I believe. Well, it might have been a slider to second base, 115. So Caglione didn't get any hits, but he hit a couple balls hard.
Who would have thought that Jake Faraday was the third hardest throwing pitcher in that series against Florida? You know, he comes out pumping 97, 98, 99. And you had Hagen threw 3 straight 100-mile-an-hour pitches to start the game, and then Christian Fauch to end the second game threw 6 consecutive pitches of triple-digit velocities, including one that hit 101.
It's crazy, isn't it? I mean, Fauch was dominant. Watching him close out that game was awesome. I mean, he looked like a big league closer right there. But who looked really good was Faraday. Faraday looked great. And Jack Caglione had gone 56 at bats without a strikeout.
Yeah, April 7th was his last strikeout. And Faraday got him in the
Faraday
8th.
got him. It was awesome. 95 outside on the black, had a little arm side run on it. And, I mean, and that's kind of how you have to get Caglione out. You can't. Your ball has to move. You can't throw it to a spot. And, you know, he had thrown him a couple of cutters in about 90 miles an hour. Got lucky. You got to get it in there when you come in there. But then he went away with 95 with a little movement and got him out. So that was awesome.
Fauch did that on ESPN2. There were 9 different Major League Baseball teams that were credentialed this weekend to watch that series. I think he put himself on some radars for next year.
I think you're right.
I think he definitely did. Okay, in lieu of a Q&A this week, we're going to do something a little bit different. I put a poll on Twitter yesterday that just basically asked, what do you think the best defensive play is in SEC play? And I limited the scope to SEC play because, for one, it would have been kind of hard to get some of the videos from down in Arlington. But there have been so many great plays in conference play this year defensively, and so I think we've got these pulled up. First off, the first option was Kendall Diggs. This is the 9th inning against Alabama, and this saves a run. This basically saves the game. Watch Kendall Diggs. This is with a bum shoulder, by the way. Lays out and makes that catch. And then has the presence of mind to jump up and get the ball back into the infield to keep that guy at second from tagging and going on home. That's a big-time play, I thought, by Kendall Diggs.
Oh, huge play. And he was picking warning track out of his arm for a couple innings after that.
Oh, I mean, even on the, we do these, when they're on the road, we'll do interviews with them via Zoom. And even during the Zoom, he's, messing with his arm because I think he had ripped a scab open or something diving out on the warning track. I thought that was a great play by him.
Oh, it was a great play. Going back, I mean, like I said, that's ball game right there. But Kendall has a knack for that too. He's, we talk about Peyton Holt, and some of the plays he makes, some of the things he does. Kendall's the same way. Kendall's just been struggling a bit at the plate, but he still made some great plays in the outfield.
There were 2 great defensive plays in that Alabama game because right after Kendall made that catch, Vahibo Aloy made a really strong play at shortstop to throw the runner out at first, and that sent it to extra innings. Of course, Arkansas didn't win that game, but those were 2 elite defensive plays in that game. Next one's a little bit different. It's Ty Wilmsmeyer against Auburn. Now, he's not going to catch the ball up here against the wall. This was going to be a tough play for him to make up against the center field wall. But watch him reach down and grab this ball, and the strike he throws to third base. One hop, right in the glove of Jared Sprague-Lott.
It's pretty impressive right there. I mean, that's a great throw. To pick that ball up barehand like that, get that much on the throw, I mean, that's a good arm, and that's an accurate arm.
I asked Wilmsmeyer before the season because we really hadn't seen him do a whole lot, throwing during practices. It was like, how's your arm? He said, I've been told it's adequate. And so I kind of believed it's like it was just kind of this so-so arm. He's made a few of those plays this year where he had a play against Ole Miss where he threw out a runner, I think at third in kind of a similar situation, or maybe it was at home plate. I can't remember where. But he's had a few of those plays this year where he's really shown a great arm from center field. It's not just speed and range in the outfield with him. It's a good arm.
And the thing is, it's accurate. I mean, it's one thing to have. I know I've played with guys that had cannons, but they didn't know where the ball was going. They'd throw it to the backstop. It looked good coming out of the hand, but the key is he's so accurate. And if you ever watch him take infield, watch his throws in pregame infield. I mean, they're right on the bag every time.
All right, here's from last Friday night against Florida. This was a huge play in this game. The chopper to Jared Spraglot, that throw home. Man, that's pretty.
That's hard to beat right there. Now,
can we watch that one more time, Blake? If you can cue that back up. One thing that stands out to me is like a right-handed hitter, or a right-handed somebody who throws with their right hand, they're going to throw off of their left foot a lot of times. He throws that off his right foot. That's a hard throw to make home.
It's a hard throw. And like I said, he's charging that ball, and that thing's got a ton of spin. That ball's top spun off the bat. So it's spinning, no telling how fast. There's a setting on TrackMan where I can get the spin of the ball. I wish I would have thought to hit. I was so caught up in the moment. I would love to have seen how fast that ball was spinning, RPMs, off the bat, because to be able to barehand that and throw it home, it's crazy. I mean, it's an unbelievable play.
All of these plays, they saved runs, but especially Diggs and Spraglot in this situation, it's not just saving runs; it's saving runs late in games. Where you got to have Florida right there. They had it teed up to really be able to have a big inning and maybe take the lead in the what was that, the 7th or the 8th inning? It was the 8th inning where Spraglot makes that throw.
7th inning, I think.
7th inning.
That throw.
Yeah. So but they're potentially they're going to take a late lead there, and whether it be that play or with Diggs or this one we're about to see, these are big defensive plays late in the game, and I think that adds a little bit of an element to it. And this is the play everybody's talking about, Peyton Holt. Everybody's learned the word deke this week who didn't know it before. So just take me through this play.
Well, right there, it's just great awareness. First of all, he got his body in the right spot. It's one thing if you just do the glove fake. If your feet don't sell it, it doesn't work. But he's got his body in the right position.
There's O'Sullivan.
Oh yeah, look, that's priceless right there. Seeing O'Sullivan, but if you just look at his footwork, he made it look like he was actually catching the ball. So it wasn't just the glove fake; it was the whole body being in the right position is what sold that play. It's just an unbelievable play.
In that all-9 camera, you can tell where like a couple of the Arkansas fielders, they don't know what's going on. Peyton Stovall does not know what's going on at second base. And credit Spraglot for having the presence of mind to get that ball home, because I think he was a little surprised that it was coming to him.
Well, I think what they anticipate right there is the guy's going to leave early, so you're going to throw and get him out at third. But they didn't anticipate him leaving, coming back, and then going. But if you're the runner at third, you can't go there. Once you mess it up, you got to just stay at third. And the third base coach, I don't know. I was watching his mouth. I don't think he said anything. He just did this. Like, what are you doing?
What are you doing? Yep.
I don't know what you can say there. Help, mommy.
So we're going to pull the poll up, and I guess a little bit of recency bias here. Look what wins. Peyton Holt in a runway.
Yeah.
You think that's the best defensive play? Because I think it's a headsy defensive play, but I like what Diggs and Spraglot did a lot out of that group of four.
I think Peyton Holt's play is going to go down in history as one of those plays that we constantly talk about.
Because it's so unique.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like you could see a third baseman do what Jared Spraglot did, but how many times here's a question. How much do you think we're going to see teams try to pull off the Peyton Holt play now moving forward this year? I bet we see it a couple of times. You know what?
We have a tournament this weekend. 12U
You think
team.
you're going to see it?
I'm going to see 12-year-olds out there trying to do it. Probably at practice on Thursday, our 12-year-olds are going to want to practice that because they want to be like Peyton Holt. But to answer your question, I think you're going to see it now. I think you're going to see it in the big leagues. That play was everywhere. I've never seen a play replayed that many times. And listening to so many people that rarely talk about college baseball talking about it. I mean, I'm with the voters. Put that number one.
I think you're going to have a bunch of 12-year-olds run off the field with a bloody nose.
Possibly, because that's, I mean, think about it. That it's coming down fast, Matt.
Mm-hmm.
It really is. There's so many things that you have to do to prepare to do what he did.
Kentucky, we thought they would not win as much, I guess we put it that way, over the back half of the SEC season as they did the first half. They're like 14-1 through 15 games, and then they've got a couple of consecutive series losses. This is a big series this weekend. But these aren't the only two teams. You got Tennessee and Texas A&M both lurking a game back, and those are the four teams that it feels like the conference race is between right now.
I think so. I think what I'm really looking forward to, like if you look at, so when we get, I don't know how you do it, when we get to this time of year, I look at SEC stats only. I don't care what they did against the other chumps. I want to know what they're doing in SEC. They're hitting 314 as a team. I mean, they're leading the SEC in hitting. Razorbacks are 12th. They're 314. We're 238 as a team in just SEC games only. But on the flip side of that, pitching-wise, we're first with 3.37 ERA. They're 4.76. So it's going to be a lot of fun to watch that matchup and see how they do against our pitching. They got three of their hitters, Waldschmidt, Nicholson, and McCarthy, all, they're in the top 10 in hitting in the SEC, 422, 460, 364, and 361 respectively. And we've got three pitchers in the top 10 in ERA. So you take and you mesh all that together and you look at runs scored versus runs allowed. It's going to be a lot of fun to see. Now they're a different team at home. They play way better at home, kind of like Razorbacks do. I think they recruit to play at that ballpark on the turf.
Yeah, and so explain that, because you're not the first person I've heard talk about that. But from what I can tell, they get a lot of runners, they get a lot of good bunters.
Yeah,
and that's kind of the type of baseball they want to play at home.
I mean, they typically, it's a lot of just a lot of aggressive, just taking extra bases. I mean, they're going to go first, third on you. They're going to steal second and third. They're going to do a lot of things, but they're aggressive on the bases. They have 59 steal attempts in the SEC. That's a lot. That's a whole lot of steal. I want to say they've stolen 40-something bags successfully, which is a ton. It's way more than anyone else in the SEC. So they're aggressive on the bases, but I think they go out and they recruit that type of player that can hit on the turf. They can run on the turf. Now the difference is this year they're still hitting a lot of home runs. They're hitting quite a few home runs, which is something you typically don't see out of Kentucky team. And the other thing you typically don't see is their pitching. They're third in the SEC in ERA. You typically don't see them. You see them up there in hitting a lot, but to see them up there that high in pitching, you don't see that a whole lot. Yeah,
they lost to South Carolina last week, and those were some really, really interesting games. South Carolina, I think Kentucky got up 4-1 in the ninth, and then Carolina scored 3 in the bottom of the ninth and forced extras. Kentucky scores once in the 10th. Carolina scores twice in the 10th to win that one. Game 2, just an absolute slugfest. And we've seen some of these with Kentucky this year. They had one against Tennessee a couple of weeks ago, but they beat South Carolina 15-13 in that second game. And then I guess they just kind of ran out of juice in Game 3. They lost 10-0 and got run ruled there in Columbia. Kentucky's a team that they've been this team that all year they have been really hard to figure out.
Yeah.
It's like, are they as good as their record says? Are they a pitching team? Are they an offensive team? I don't know. It's kind of hard to figure out with them.
Well, I'm like you. I've said from the beginning of the season, okay, this is the weekend they're going to fall out of their tree. Okay, they're not that good, and then they go and they sweep a series, and you're like, okay, this weekend is the weekend. They just keep winning, and so I think by this point of the year, you got to look at them and say, okay, they're good. I mean, they really are. Now they're facing better teams. They've lost the last 2 weekends, lost the series, but they've played South Carolina, and Tennessee. I was surprised to see that Tennessee go in there and beat them at home 2 out of 3, but we'll see.
I watched a lot of that Game 3 between Tennessee and Kentucky, and 2 things stood out to me. Number one, the wind that day was, I don't know how many home runs that those teams combined for, but it was a bunch. I mean, it was really howling out of that park. And so I don't know if the wind this weekend is going to be comparable or not. I don't know if that's this time of year. Maybe that was just something abnormal for that day. It's just something I noticed. And then the other thing I noticed, like they had a lot of people in there. I think they had like 5,000-6,000 people there for that game 3. Usually you go into Kentucky Proud Park or the old stadium before it, and it's like you're playing in a museum. I mean, it's like shh, don't say anything. And now it's I mean they've got a little bit of a home field advantage behind them in the crowd and of course on the field playing on that turf.
I tell you, they're going to have huge crowds this weekend. Razorbacks coming to town. I don't know if it has something to do with Calipari, that whole
it's also Derby weekend.
It is Derby weekend. So there's a lot going on, but I think they're going to have huge crowds. So I think it's going to be a fun series. I really do.
You think Mark Pope will throw out the first pitch before a game this weekend? Wouldn't surprise me.
They might try to top.
Was he like 6'10"?
I don't know.
Like watching Randy Johnson come down from the mound.
I'd like to see that. But seeing Hagen Smith go through this lineup will be a lot of fun. Now you look at the Florida lineup. Florida lineup is good. I mean, that's what Hagen did to our whole pitch staff did a good job for the most part against Florida. It's hard for me to look at that Florida team and see their record in the SEC because I thought they were way better than their record indicates. But they had some tough losses. I think DVH even said they could have 7 or 8 more wins than what they have right now. They've lost some tough ones.
What did you think of John Calipari's first pitch?
I thought it was awesome.
He went up on the mound and it was right there.
So we debated it before. We're like, okay, is he a halfway guy? Is he on the edge of the dirt guy? And I said no. I think he's a go all the way to the mound guy and throw a strike, and he did. I mean, he went all the way back to the mound, but he did get loose on the field, though. Did you see him?
I was
getting
watching
loose
him get loose with Tate McGuire, and he kept telling Tate, go back, go back. I mean, he was taking it serious.
I thought it was awesome. So usually you don't see a guy get loose on the field. Usually they don't want anyone to see him get loose. They'll go up the tunnel and get their arm loose.
A lot of times these ceremonial first pitches at Baum, and this is no offense to anybody, but they're not people who are well known. It's
right.
Hey, you're the executive of whoever gives a lot of money and gets your logo out on the outfield wall. On that Saturday, you had John Calipari in game 2. You had Tracy Lawrence, the country music singer, in game 1. I asked Kevin Trainer afterward. I said, "Is it safe to say that this is the first time we've had a Grammy-nominated country singer and a Hall of Fame basketball coach throw out the first pitch in the same day?" And I think it is.
Yeah, I think it was. That was a pretty good first pitch day for the Razorbacks, so it was kind of cool. I don't know. Tracy Lawrence is from Arkansas,
He's from
right?
I don't know if he was born there, but he grew up in Foreman, which is just down in southwest Arkansas near Texarkana.
Yeah, that was cool.
Yeah, so you just thought that he was going to be the most famous who threw out the first pitch, and then here comes on John Calipari about 4 hours later. The turf at Kentucky, I want to ask you about the challenges of playing on that. And it may be wet this weekend. I don't know if you've seen the forecast up there. They're calling 70% chance of rain Friday night, 60% chance of rain throughout most of Saturday. It decreases that evening, and then a chance of rain Sunday. It's going to be, I think, probably a lot like what we saw this weekend, dodging rain throughout the weekend. Heck, it could even be a deal where they have to play a couple of 7-inning games on Sunday on getaway day, which you hate to see those, but it just kind of is what it is. But playing on wet turf, what's that like?
It's fast. It's really fast. And honestly, if it comes down to that, playing on wet turf, I think that benefits Kentucky and their style of play. Because when the ball hits that turf and it's wet, it scoots. Now, with that being said, we got some guys that hit the ball really hard, but we don't hit a ton of ground balls. We're more of a fly ball-oriented team. So, I don't know. I think that plays into Kentucky's hand. If it's that kind of game on wet turf, it could be tough.
We talked a lot about Arkansas being good defensively. That comes into play this week with all the small ball that you're probably going to see from Kentucky. Last two things. We had a story about this the other day, is that Arkansas needs Kendall Diggs and Will McIntyre to get back on track for this team to really hit its potential. McIntyre, I think he took a step in the right direction last night against Missouri State. He was really good, in that one inning. Kendall Diggs, how does he get back on track? Because I heard you make a comment the other day. You said you've never seen him look just so in between and unsure of what's coming.
So with Kendall, he's always one of those guys. He controls the at bat. He swings on his terms, and I've never seen him be so caught in between. He's late on fastballs. He's fouled them off to the left side. He's early on breaking balls, dribbling them to the right side, and that's a bad place to be as a hitter. I've never seen Kendall go through a stretch like this. And then what ends up happening, he gets himself in this hole and he swings at a pitch out of the zone. Like during Florida's weekend, I want to say he struck out on like 5 pitches out of the zone. And that's something that Kendall, his chase rate is never as high as it is right now. I don't know the specific number. They track all that, but I know I keep it in my book, and he's chasing pitches out of the zone, and you just never see Kendall do that. So to get back on track, I think a lot of it, you can look at typically when a guy's struggling, everyone looks at mechanics first. Oh, it's mechanics. I got to change my swing. And a lot of times it's right here. It's just getting it back mentally, getting back in control of the at-bat, and picking a speed. And honestly, I like the fact that he's patient. He works the count. I don't say this about too many guys. I think Kendall needs to go up there early in the count and get a good pitch. For me, 0-0's like 2-0. I see him take a lot of really good hittable pitches, 0-0. I'd like to see him go up there and hammer that first pitch in the gap, 0-0. But I think he's going to get out of it. I really do. Kendall's a great player. He's a primetime guy. I just think he's a catalyst for this offense. I think Stovall coming back was huge, but I think getting Kendall Diggs going is going to change this offense.
It just feels like it's the missing link right now, doesn't it?
Yeah,
I mean, you got
really
Stovall, Holt. They're both hitting well. Sprague-Lott came back. He's got 3 consecutive multi-hit games. I think what Vahiva Aloy's doing right now has been good. It's like Diggs, if you can get him kind of to fit in, in that 3-hole between what those others are doing on each side, it changes at least the front, the top of your lineup. And who knows? I mean, it could be kind of the missing ingredient for this team.
I hope his shoulder's well. I didn't ask him. I saw him last night. I was going to ask him. I didn't want to, he had the day off yesterday, so I didn't want to ask him. But hopefully he'll be back in there tonight. Because I will tell you, when one part of your body's not right, it can affect your whole body. So if his left arm's hurting, it affects your backside. I mean, you've got to have your backside strong when you're hitting. And, if there's still an issue there, I don't know if there is or not, but that could be something that can turn mental. So we'll see. But I fully expect him to come out of it. I hope he's in there tonight and gets 3 or 4 hits.
Arkansas is going to play Missouri State at 4 o'clock this afternoon. Don't think any rain's going to affect that. It was raining when we came in here today, but I think it's supposed to clear out by the time the game comes around. You can listen to Bubba on Razorback Sports Network. This weekend they play at Kentucky. The scheduled game times, again, these are quite possibly prone to change because of the weather forecast in Lexington, but they're 5:30, 1 o'clock, and noon. Those are central times. All of those games will be on SEC Network. There are no more non-conference games for Arkansas after today. Missouri State's the last non-conference game until the end of the month, May 31st, when regionals will begin, most likely at Baum Walker. Arkansas's got quite the run here over the last few weeks, though, if they want to win the SEC. They've got Kentucky. You got Mississippi State, who's really surging here. Maybe to use the Kentucky Derby horse racing terms. I mean, they're coming up strong down the backstretch. They're 5th in the SEC behind those 4 teams that we mentioned earlier. They'll play them, and then they end the season at Texas A&M. So if Arkansas wins the SEC, not to say that you never have to earn it, but they really had to earn it here over these last few weeks with 3 good teams. We'll be back next week to talk about the Kentucky series. Look forward to Mississippi State. And until then, hope you'll visit us at wholehogsports.com. For Bubba Carpenter, I'm Matt Jones. Have a good week, everyone.
Go Hogs.